John Miller stared out the viewport of the horizon, watching the unfamiliar planet grow larger as they approached. At 35, he never imagined he would be part of humanity's first real interstellar expedition. His background in linguistics and 6 years as an astronaut made him the perfect candidate for this mission. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said Captain Lisa Winters, appearing beside him. Her eyes reflected the blue-green world below. John nodded. "Hard to believe we're actually here. 20 light-years from Earth." The ship's new faster-than-light drive had performed beyond expectations, allowing them to reach this promising star system in just 3 months. What they found was beyond their wildest hopes, a planet with signs of advanced civilization. "The team is gathering in the briefing room," Lisa said. "We've got some interesting readings to discuss." In the briefing room, Science Officer Alan Porter pulled up holographic images of the planet's surface. "We've named it Proxima for now," Alan explained, pointing to several large structures visible from orbit. "These appear to be cities, but something's wrong. Look at these heat signatures." The thermal scans showed very little activity for what should be bustling population centers. "Where are all the people?" asked Maria Chen, the ship's medical officer. Alan shook his head. "That's the question. We're detecting some life signs, but far fewer than structures of this size would suggest." "Could it be automated systems?" John asked. "Maybe they use robots for most functions." "Possible," Alan replied. Or, no one wanted to say what they were all thinking. A civilization that had somehow fallen. Captain Winters looked around the room. "We need to investigate. Standard first contact protocols, but with extra caution. I want a small team on the ground." John raised his hand. "I should go. If there are survivors, we'll need communication." Lisa considered this, then nodded. "Take Maria and Chief Security Officer Ben Ward. Full protective gear, constant communication. At the first sign of trouble, you return immediately." The landing shuttle broke through clouds, revealing a landscape that made everyone fall silent. The city below was clearly damaged. Tall spires stood broken. Streets were covered in debris, and there were signs of massive destruction. "It looks like a war zone," Ben said quietly, his hand resting on his sidearm. They landed in what appeared to be a central plaza. The air was breathable according to their instruments, but they kept their helmets sealed as a precaution. "Movement at 2 o'clock, Ben warned, pointing toward a collapsed building. John squinted, scanning the area. Then he saw it, a figure darting between shadows, clearly trying to stay hidden. "Hello," John called out, his voice amplified through his suit's speakers. "We come in peace." The figure froze, then slowly emerged. It was humanoid, female in appearance, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. She wore tattered clothing and looked terrified. "I'll approach slowly," John said to his teammates. "Cover me." He walked forward with his hands raised, the universal sign of peaceful intentions. The alien woman watched him, trembling but not running away. When John was 10 feet away, he activated his translation device and spoke again. "We are humans from Earth. We mean no harm." The device emitted a series of sounds, attempting to find a pattern the alien might understand. The woman's eyes widened. She looked around fearfully, then pointed to the sky and made frantic gestures. "I think she's warning us about something," Maria said through the comm. Suddenly, the alien rushed forward. John tensed, but she wasn't attacking. She was seeking protection. She grabbed his arm, pointing urgently toward a nearby underground entrance. "I think she wants us to follow her," John said. Benton scanned the area. "Could be a trap. Or she could be saving our lives," John countered. "Look at her. She's terrified." Captain Winter's voice came through their comms. "Sensors show atmospheric disturbance heading your way. Unknown composition." The alien woman tugged harder, desperation in her eyes. "We're going with her," John decided. "Something tells me we need to trust her." As they followed her into the underground passage, none of them could have imagined what they would learn, or how it would change humanity's place in the universe forever. The underground passage was dark, lit only by the flashlights from the human suits. The alien woman moved quickly, leading them deeper beneath the ruined city. John, Maria, and Ben followed closely, their footsteps echoing against the metal walls. "Captain, we're approximately 30 meters underground now," John reported through his comm. "The alien is leading us through what appears to be an emergency shelter system. Keep transmitting your location data," Captain Winters replied, her voice slightly distorted. "We're monitoring from orbit. Be careful." The alien woman stopped suddenly, turning to face them. In the beam of their lights, John could see her features more clearly. Her blue skin had a slight shimmer to it, and what he had first thought was hair was actually a crown of thin, flexible appendages that moved slightly as if sensing the air around them. She pointed to a sealed door, then made a series of gestures at John's translation device. "I think she wants us to help open it," John said. He approached the door, examining its mechanism. "Looks like it needs power." Ben stepped forward with a portable power cell. "Let me try." The alien watched anxiously as Ben connected the power cell to what appeared to be an access panel. The door hummed to life, sliding open with a groan of metal. Inside was a large chamber filled with what remained of a living space. Broken furniture, scattered possessions, and damaged technology filled the room. The alien woman hurried inside, looking around as if searching for something. "This must have been some kind of bunker," Maria said, scanning the room with her medical sensors. "There were more people here, but the readings suggest no one has been here for months." The alien finally found what she was looking for, a small, cube-shaped device. She pressed several buttons on its surface, and a holographic display appeared, showing symbols and images. "I think it's some kind of database or communication device," John said, fascinated. He adjusted his translator, hoping it had gathered enough linguistic data to begin basic communication. The alien spoke, her voice melodic but filled with urgency. The translator processed for a moment, then produced a rough approximation in English. "Danger, not safe. Hide." "We understand there's danger," John said slowly, letting the translator convert his words. "What happened to your city? To your people?" The alien's large eyes filled with what looked like tears. She touched the holographic display, bringing up images of her city, intact and beautiful, filled with her kind going about their daily lives. Then the images changed, showing the arrival of strange shadows that seemed to darken the sky. "They came, took all," the translator managed. "Few hide, most gone." "Who came?" Ben asked, his security training making him alert for threats. "Other aliens. Enemies." The woman shook her head, struggling to explain. She pointed upward, then made a gesture like something consuming or enveloping. "The void," the translator finally produced. "They eat. Life. Mind." She suddenly stiffened, her sensory appendages standing straight up. She rushed to John, grabbing his arm and pointing to a device on her wrist that appeared to be some kind of sensor. "Coming," she said, panic clear in her voice even through the translation. "Must go. Ship. Safe." "Something's coming," John asked, alarmed. "What's coming?" But there was no time for answers. The alien was already pulling them toward another door at the back of the room. "Captain," John called urgently into his comm. "We need extraction. The alien is indicating immediate danger." "Understood," Lisa responded. "We're detecting unusual energy signatures near your location. Get to the surface, and we'll send the shuttle." As they hurried through the new passage, John caught glimpses of more living quarters, all abandoned, all showing signs of a hasty departure. Whatever had happened here had come suddenly, giving people little time to prepare. The alien woman stopped at a ladder leading upward, pointing insistently. "This must lead to a different exit," John said. "Let's go." As they climbed, Ben in the lead with his weapon ready, John couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled into something far more complex and dangerous than a simple first contact mission. The ruins around them weren't just evidence of a fallen civilization. They were a warning. The journey back to the horizon was tense. John sat beside the alien woman in the shuttle, watching as she stared out the viewport at her ruined world growing smaller below them. Her shoulders trembled slightly, but she made no sound. "We're bringing her aboard," John had insisted when Captain Winters questioned the decision. "She saved our lives. Whatever destroyed her civilization might be a threat to us too." Now, 3 days later, John stood in the ship's lab, watching the alien, who they had learned called herself Ilara, interact with the advanced translation system. Chief Science Officer Allen had connected her holographic device to their computers, accelerating their understanding of her language. "The progress is remarkable," Allen said, reviewing the data. "Her language uses complex tonal patterns, but the structure is surprisingly similar to some Earth languages." Ilara pointed to symbols on a screen, making sounds that the translator was beginning to interpret with increasing accuracy. "Narians," the computer voiced. "We are called Narians." John smiled encouragingly. "Narians, from the planet." "Nerith," she responded, the translator keeping pace now. "Home." Captain Winters entered the lab, nodding to the team. "How's it going?" "We've established basic communication," John explained, "and the medical scans show her biology is carbon-based, similar to ours in many ways." "Good," Lisa said, "because we need answers. Our long-range sensors are detecting unusual energy patterns moving through this system. I need to know if they're related to whatever destroyed her civilization." John turned to Ilara, speaking slowly. "Ilara, can you tell us what happened to your people? What destroyed your cities?" Ilara's expression darkened. Her head tendrils curled inward, a gesture they had learned indicated distress. She moved to the holographic device, bringing up images of her world before destruction. Tall, gleaming buildings, ships that traveled between stars. "We were peaceful," the translator conveyed. "Many cycles. We studied the stars, found many worlds." The images change, showing maps of what appeared to be dozens of star systems. "Other life?" John asked. "You found other civilizations?" Ilara nodded. "Many kinds, different shapes, different minds." Her fingers trembled as she advanced to the next images. "Then we found them." The hologram showed darkness spreading across star systems, planets going dark one by one. "They have no name we can speak," she continued, the translator struggling with her increasingly emotional speech. "We call them the Void. They consume, not bodies, but minds." Maria leaned forward. "Some kind of psychic attack, or a biological weapon targeting neural systems." Ilara touched her head. "They feed on thought, intelligence. The more advanced the mind, the more they want it." She looked at John with intense eyes. "My people tried to fight, failed. Tried to hide, failed. But you survived," John said gently. "Few of us. Hidden." She pointed to her head tendrils. "These sensed them coming. Give short warning." Captain Winters crossed her arms. "That explains why she rushed you underground. She sensed them approaching." John realized something. "Wait. If these void creatures are so efficient at hunting down intelligent life, how did you survive this long, Ilara?" Ilara looked at John with an expression that seemed almost like wonder. She stepped closer to him, reaching out hesitantly before touching his forehead with her fingertips. "You," she said simply. "Different." Allen studied his instruments. "Her neural patterns are showing increased activity. I think she's trying to demonstrate something." John stayed still, letting Ilara make contact. "Different how?" "Your minds," she said, moving her hand to indicate all the humans. "Make pattern. Pattern the void cannot see, cannot find." The room went silent as the implications sank in. "You're saying humans have some kind of natural defense against these creatures?" Captain Winters asked. Ilara nodded emphatically. never seen before, in all worlds we found. Her eyes locked with John's, a newfound hope visible in them. You are hidden from them. You might survive. John felt a chill run through him. Humanity had just taken its first steps into interstellar space, only to discover they were entering a galaxy at war, a war they didn't know they were uniquely equipped to fight. We need to know everything, he said to Ilara, everything about these void creatures, and we need to find more of your people. For the first time since they'd met her, Ilara's mouth curved into what appeared to be a smile. 2 weeks passed aboard the Horizon. With each day, Ilara became more comfortable with the humans, and their translation technology improved dramatically. Captain Winters had placed the ship in a stealth orbit around one of Proxima's moons, using its mass to shield them from detection while they gathered information. John spent most of his waking hours with Ilara, learning about Narian culture and history while teaching her about Earth. He was surprised by how quickly she grasped human concepts and languages. Your species learns very fast, he told her as they shared a meal in the ship's common area. Necessity, she replied, carefully handling a fork. When you meet many different worlds, adaptation is survival. John noticed that despite her progress, Ilara still seemed haunted. Sometimes she would stop mid-sentence, her head tendrils quivering as if detecting something only she could sense. Other times, she would stare at the humans with an expression that seemed like a mixture of hope and disbelief. That evening, Captain Winters called an emergency meeting. The ship's sensors had detected unusual activity on the planet below. We found what appears to be a transmission coming from beneath the surface, Alan explained, showing the data on the main display. It's using Narian communication protocols, according to Ilara's database. More survivors, Maria suggested. Possibly, the captain said. But we're not rushing in this time. John asked Ilara if she can identify the source. When shown the transmission data, Ilara's reaction was immediate and intense. Her head tendrils extended fully, and she began speaking rapidly in her native language before the translator could keep up. Friends, family, thought all dead. The computer finally interpreted. Must go, must help. We'll send a properly equipped team, Captain Winters decided. But first, I need to understand exactly what we're facing. These void entities, we need complete information before we risk another landing. Later that night, John found Ilara in the observation deck, staring out at her devastated homeworld. He sat beside her in silence for several minutes. My family lived in the northern city, she finally said, pointing to a dark region on the planet. When the void came, we had only hours to prepare. My sister, her children. John saw her struggling with the memories. I'm sorry, he said simply. Suddenly, Ilara turned to him, her large eyes filled with emotion. She grasped his hands, her grip surprisingly strong. You don't understand, she said, her voice breaking. No one survives the void. No one. She stood abruptly and activated a small device she carried with her, a personal data unit she had kept hidden until now. It projected a three-dimensional star map of the local galactic sector. Narians explored these stars, she explained, highlighting dozens of systems, found 18 intelligent species, all unique, all beautiful. The map changed, showing the same sector with over half the stars darkened. All gone now, she whispered. The void moved through like a wave, consuming minds, leaving only empty bodies. John felt a chill run through him. But some of your people survived. Yes, she said, and I never understood why. Until now. She turned to face him fully, then suddenly embraced him, holding him tightly. John could feel her body trembling against his as she began to cry, the first time she had shown such emotion. Ilara, what is it? He asked gently. She pulled back enough to look into his eyes, her head tendrils gently brushing against his face in what he had learned was a gesture of deep trust. Your brains, she said, her voice now steady despite her tears. They emit a frequency, a pattern we have never seen before. You mentioned that before, John said, confused by her intensity. No, you don't understand, she insisted. When I am near you, the void cannot sense me. Your minds create a shield. It hides my thoughts from them. She gripped his shoulders tightly, her revelation finally clear. For 3 cycles, I wondered why I survived when billions died, she said, her voice filled with wonder and shock. Now I know. It was you. Humans are the only species we found that can resist them, the only ones who can shield others. John stood frozen, the weight of her words sinking in. You humans are not just immune, she continued, hope breaking through her tears. You are the weapon we have been searching for across the stars. Captain Winters called an emergency meeting in the Horizon's command center. The entire senior crew gathered around the large conference table, all eyes fixed on Ilara as she presented her evidence. Please show them, John encouraged her. After her emotional revelation the previous night, he had convinced her to share everything with the crew. Ilara nodded and connected her personal device to the ship's systems. The room darkened as a holographic display illuminated the center of the table. It showed brain scans of different species, including humans. Narians collected biological data from all species we contacted, she explained, her voice steadier now. This is normal Narian brain. She pointed to an image showing complex energy patterns flowing through neural tissue. And this, she continued, switching to another scan, is human brain. The difference was immediately apparent. The human neural patterns pulsed with a distinctive rhythm, creating what looked like interference patterns around the brain itself. Your minds generate field, Ilara explained, like radio noise. The void cannot detect through this noise. Alan Porter leaned forward, fascinated. A natural jamming signal. That's remarkable. More than jamming, Ilara said. It spreads. She displayed new data showing how the human neural pattern extended beyond the physical brain. Creates safe bubble. Maria Chen, the medical officer, studied the scans with professional interest. This could explain certain unique features of human brainwave patterns that we've never fully understood. We've always had unusually high background neural activity. How large is this bubble? Asked Security Chief Ben Ward, always focused on tactical applications. Ilara measured with her hands. 3 to 4 body lengths. Stronger when many humans together. Captain Winters processed this information with a thoughtful expression. So a single human creates enough interference to hide themselves, and maybe a few others, but a group of humans could shield many, Ilara confirmed. My people have technology that could amplify this effect. John noticed how Ilara's demeanor had changed. The despair that had clung to her since they found her was giving way to something like hope. Have you confirmed this works? Captain Winters asked. Could this just be a theory? Not theory, Ilara said firmly. When Void attacked my research center, I was working with human DNA samples collected by our explorers years ago. I was surrounded by human genetic material when Void swept through. They passed over my lab. She touched John's arm. When your team found me, I felt safe for first time in cycles. Void passed overhead but could not find us in tunnel. Because of you. The captain stood, pacing the room as she considered the implications. This changes our mission parameters completely. We came here to explore, but we've discovered a threat to all intelligent life, and potentially a unique human advantage. We need to find the other Narian survivors, John said. If Ilara is right, they're in danger every moment without human protection. And we need to understand these void entities better, added Alan. What are they exactly? Some kind of energy life form. Ilara shook her head. Not energy only. They have physical form, but different. They exist in space between spaces, can move through solid matter, can absorb thoughts directly. Like psychic vampires, Maria suggested. Yes, Ilara agreed. They feed on complex thought patterns. More advanced the civilization, more attractive the food. Captain Winters returned to her seat, her decision made. We have two priorities. First, rescue the Narian survivors sending that transmission. Second, gather all possible data on these void entities. She looked around the table. This isn't just about first contact anymore. We may be the only defense against a threat that has already destroyed countless civilizations. John felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Humanity had barely reached the stars, and already they were being thrust into a cosmic struggle they never knew existed. One question remains, said Ben. Do we call for reinforcements from Earth or handle this ourselves? Ilara's head tendrils quivered slightly as she spoke. Every transmission creates ripples. Void might sense, might follow signal to your world. The room fell silent as everyone confronted the impossible choice: risk leading the void to Earth, or face this threat alone, billions of light years from home. Captain Winters stood at the helm of the Horizon, watching as the small rescue team prepared to descend to the planet's surface. After days of careful planning, they had decided to investigate the Narian distress signal. Remember the protocol, she told John, who was leading the mission. 4 humans minimum at all times to maintain the defensive field. No one goes anywhere alone. John nodded, checking his equipment one last time. Beside him, Ilara adjusted a device she had built using parts from her personal technology and the ship's engineering lab. This will amplify your neural patterns, she explained. Make shields stronger. The rescue team consisted of John, Ben, Maria, and 2 additional crew members, Sam Rogers from engineering and Kate Wilson from science. Ilara would guide them to the hidden bunker where her people might be sheltering. We maintain communication at all times, Ben reminded everyone. Any sign of these void creatures, we abort immediately. The shuttle descended through the atmosphere, following coordinates Ilara had extracted from the transmission. They landed in a mountainous region, far from the destroyed cities they had first explored. The entrance is hidden, Ilara said as they exited the shuttle, designed to be invisible to sensors. She led them along a narrow path that wound between rocky outcroppings. The landscape was barren but beautiful, with strange crystalline formations catching the light of the alien sun. Stop, Ilara suddenly whispered, her head tendrils extending fully. Sense something. Everyone froze, weapons ready. John activated the neural amplifier Ilara had built. Is it them? He asked quietly. Ilara remained still for several moments, then relaxed slightly. Gone now. Passed by. Did not detect us. They continued more cautiously until they reached what appeared to be a solid cliff face. Ilara pressed her hand against a specific spot, and a hidden panel slid open, revealing a control interface. Last known safe haven, she said as she entered a complex code. If any survived, they are here. A section of the rock face shimmered and disappeared, revealing a tunnel leading deep into the mountain. As they entered, lights activated automatically, illuminating their path. The power systems still work, Sam noted appreciatively. Impressive engineering. After walking for several minutes, they reached a massive sealed door. Ilara approached it and spoke in her native language. A scanner swept over her. Then the door began to open with a deep rumbling sound. What they found inside left them speechless. A vast cavern had been transformed into a miniature city, with structures built into the rock walls and across the floor. And there were Narians, dozens of them, staring at the newcomers with expressions of shock and fear. An older Narian with silver-streaked head tendrils stepped forward. He spoke rapidly to Ilara, who responded with what seemed to be explanation and reassurance. This is Elder Zoran. She finally introduced him to the humans. Leader of survivors. Zoran studied the humans with intense curiosity. Ilara tells us you carry protection against the void, he said through Ilara's translator. Is this true? John stepped forward. We appear to have a natural defense, yes. We want to help you. Zoran signaled, and several Narians brought forward what looked like scientific equipment. Then perhaps the ancient prophecy was true after all. Prophecy? John asked, confused. Not real prophecy, Ilara explained. Old scientific theory that somewhere in galaxy must exist species with natural immunity to void. Many doubted. Over the next few hours, the humans learned that this bunker contained not only surviving Narians, but also refugees from two other species whose worlds had been destroyed by the void. They had been hiding together, pooling their knowledge and resources. We have been collecting data on void movements for cycles. Zoran showed them on a large holographic display. They consume world after world, moving in predictable pattern. Like a harvest, Kate observed grimly. Zoran nodded. Yes, and your Earth lies directly in their path, though still many cycles away. The implications were clear. Earth needed to be warned, but without alerting the void to its location. We have built communication technology that might be safe, one of the other alien refugees offered. They resembled large insects with iridescent shells. It uses quantum entanglement. No signals to detect. Captain Winter's voice came through their comms. John, we're detecting unusual energy patterns in orbit. We may not have much time. John looked at the gathered aliens, the last survivors of once great civilizations, and made a decision. We need to get as many of you as possible to our ship, he said, and we need to form a plan. Together. For the first time since arriving on this devastated world, he saw something spread through the room that had been missing before. Hope. 3 months had passed since the Horizon's fateful discovery of Proxima. The ship now orbited Earth, its mission complete but its journey just beginning. John stood in a secure conference room at Space Command Headquarters, watching as world leaders on screens around the room absorbed the information they had just presented. So these void entities, said the Secretary General. They've destroyed countless civilizations, and Earth is eventually in their path. Yes, John confirmed. But we have time, perhaps decades, and we have something no other species had, natural immunity. Beside him stood Ilara, now serving as the official representative of the surviving Narians. In the weeks since their rescue, she had mastered English completely. The 47 alien refugees they had brought back to Earth. Narians and members of 2 other species were being housed in a specially constructed facility in a remote location. The quantum communication technology worked, Captain Winters added. We were able to send a warning message back to Earth without creating detectable signals. That's why we had time to prepare for our arrival. The Defense Secretary leaned forward. And you're certain these neural patterns can be weaponized? Ilara stepped forward. With respect, not weaponized, harmonized. My people have already begun working with your scientists to develop technology that amplifies human neural patterns. We can create protection zones. Dr. Alan Porter activated a holographic display showing test results. The combination of Narian energy technology and human neurological patterns creates a field that completely blocks void detection. We've confirmed this through tests using captured void material. The implications go beyond defense, John added. We've already sent 2 additional ships back to Proxima, carrying volunteer crews. They're establishing the first human-protected outpost. The room fell silent as everyone considered what this meant for humanity's future. They had barely taken their first steps into interstellar space, only to discover they were uniquely positioned to save what remained of intelligent life in their sector of the galaxy. We're proposing a 3-part plan, Captain Winters continued. First, establish protected zones for refugee species. Second, develop technology to extend human neural protection. Third, begin mapping void movements to predict and avoid their harvesting patterns. 6 months later, John stood on a hillside overlooking New Haven, the first multi-species colony established on a habitable moon in the Proxima system. Below him, the settlement bustled with activity. Humans worked alongside Narians and the other refugee species, building a community unlike anything in human history. It's growing faster than we expected, said Ilara, joining him on the hillside. In the months they had worked together, their relationship had deepened into something neither of them had words for yet. 30 ships from Earth already, with more on the way. John nodded. People want to help. Ilara watched as a group of human children played with young Narians, already learning each other's languages and customs. When my world fell, I thought all was lost. I hid alone for so long, expecting each day to be my last. John remembered their first meeting, how terrified she had been. And now? Now we have hope, she said simply. The void has never faced a force like humanity before. You don't just resist them, you shield others. The setting sun cast long shadows across the valley as the first lights of the settlement began to illuminate the growing town. When I held you that day, crying, Ilara said softly, I never imagined you would become the salvation of not just my people, but countless civilizations across the stars. John looked at the colony below, humans and aliens working together to build something new from the ashes of destruction. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about creating a future where diverse species could thrive together, protected by humanity's unique gift. We have a long way to go, he said, but for the first time, we have a chance. As night fell over New Haven, the stars emerged above them, not just points of light now, but potential homes waiting to be protected, waiting to be saved. A new beginning, Ilara whispered, for all of us.